Mecca. He was an intelligent man, he worked, and he was able to free himself. The Prophet ﷺ comes with the message of Islam, and Suhaib al-Rumi accepts it. So you have a situation where he's enslaved, and now he's free, and now he hears about Islam, he accepts it, and now all of a sudden there's another curveball in the sense that now he's being tortured, and he has no tribe to back him up. After so many years, Allah allows the Muslims, commands the Muslims that you can go to Yathrib in Medina. And Suhaib then decides at the peak of night, I'm going to leave. And as he leaves, Quraysh, the thugs of Quraysh, decide, you know what, we're not going to let him leave. So they start following him. Long story short, Suhaib al-Rumi was smart. He said, listen, I'll make a deal with you. I will give you my wealth that's hidden in Mecca. Let me leave. So they decided, you know what, we'll do the deal, but we also want your camel. So imagine he's going to go, it's a 4-hour drive pretty much from Medina to Mecca on a vehicle. They're taking his camel. So he makes the deal. As he walks from Mecca to Medina, and just imagine that journey, the Prophet ﷺ says, your business transaction has been most successful. The Prophet ﷺ wasn't even there when he saw it. It's revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now you have this example of Suhaib al-Rumi that happened with a lot of the Quraysh, a lot of the Muslims in Mecca that had to leave. They left with nothing on in their wallets or anything, just but the clothes on their back. They left all their wealth pretty much in Mecca. So the Prophet ﷺ does something very, very profound, and this might scare some of you guys. It's called social welfare. He realized that we have so many immigrants coming into Medina, it's impossible. They're going to be homeless. So what we're going to do is establish a brotherhood with someone from Yathrib, and you'll be connected with them. So you will be brothers with that specific individual from the Ansar, and whatever money you make, you split it. Any job duties you do, you guys split it. Everything is equal. Even if someone from the Ansar dies, he gets part of the inheritance. That's what it really meant. You guys ready? It worked. It worked. The Muhajirin came, they split the wealth, and subhanAllah, it worked. They got on their feet. Now just imagine this. You're in Mecca, you're being tortured, you're going to learn about your faith, and you're always watching behind your back. All of a sudden, you're in Medina, you have money in your wallet, clothes on your back, and you're going to Masjid Nabawi, and you have nothing to fear. How beautiful is that? Nothing to fear. Alhamdulillah, we did it. And then Allah does something now. He does what? Allah throws a little bit of a curveball again. A little redirection. Quraysh had an abundance of wealth. Because of all the Muslims that left, they basically stole that wealth. And they went to do some trading in Sham. The Prophet ﷺ gets the word that there's a caravan that has a lot of our wealth on it. The Prophet ﷺ sends a spy. The spy looks at the caravan. It's estimated that there's 1,000 camels on that caravan. So it's probably around $10 million of today's wealth. This is big for the people of Medina. So the Prophet ﷺ then tells the people of Medina, whoever is ready, let's go, let's get the caravan. There's only 50 security yards. If we can take the caravan without a problem. So subhanAllah, around 313, 14, 15, give and take, say, let's go. Now here's something that people don't know. They're not going for battle. They're just going to get a caravan. Life is good. Alhamdulillah, we go to the masjid, and now you're telling us we can get our money back? Allahu Akbar, this is fantastic. Abu Sufyan is not a stupid man. He did stupid decisions prior to accepting Islam. But one thing that he did is he started looking around and he started seeing some camel dung, some camel manure. He picks it up and he starts feeling it out, and he realizes these camels are eating the dates of Medina. So he's like, oh no. He then sends an ambassador, envoy, to go back to Mecca and saying our caravan is at risk. and then he goes close to the Red Sea. That's all Abu Jahl. And say, you and your Lord go fight, and we'll lag behind. Rather, you go fight, and we'll be behind you. When the Prophet ﷺ heard this, he smiled. But he was waiting for something else. Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, who was one of the leaders of Yathrib, spoke up. And something that you need to know is that the Ansar said, we'll protect you in Medina. The contract wasn't outside of Medina, and the wells of Badr are outside of Medina. So Sa'd ibn Mu'adh says something very beautiful. We have given our pledge to obey you. Wherever you go, we shall go. And when hearing this, the Prophet ﷺ smiled. And alhamdulillah, as we all know, and if you don't, it's no big deal, the Muslims won the battle. One of the beautiful things about redirection or curveballs that happen in our life is sometimes you don't realize what you're made out of. Miqdad ibn Aswad, I read his life before. The thing that always hits me is that statement when he said, we won't be like the people of Musa. No, you fight and we'll fight with you. Wallahi, when I read his story, that like hits me. How would I know the greatness of Miqdad unless that happened? Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, no, we are going to obey you. Wherever you go, we shall go. And now, subhanAllah, what was happening in New Zealand. I think everyone wore hijab on Friday in New Zealand. The Prime Minister is saying everything correct and being very beautiful in how she's dealing with the Muslim population. How will we know the greatness of the people in New Zealand unless that tragedy happened? Sometimes things will happen in our life and we'll realize who we are, we truly are. Think about it. Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Gandhi. Instead of them being born or living their life in the 20th century, imagine they lived in the 15th century. Would we know who they are? No, because of their circumstances, the things that were happening in their life, they rose up to the occasion. And right now, we're put in a predicament right now. What's going to come out of us? There are certain people, when they heard about New Zealand, not you guys, mashallah, you are Khutbah Jummah. Some of the people are like, you know what? Being the only Muslim and Arab kid in my class, I was so confused. My family wasn't very practicing. I was really weirded out. I didn't know what to do. And I remember other Muslim kids that I grew up with, they would move far away from ever identifying it with Islam or even their culture. So they would change their names. I don't know what they're doing. I remember a time where I was hanging out with a bunch of guys, and there was a man praying in the parking lot. So he looked at us. What is that guy doing? Well, I don't know. I'm not them. So there's a fear that happens because of what we're going through, and no one's teaching us. And then subhanAllah, when I was a senior in high school, I started praying. A couple years later, 9/11 happens. And alhamdulillah, after a couple years of praying, I really liked my life better with Salah than without it. So when 9/11 happened, it was another curveball. But it was actually interesting because certain friends of mine that were practicing, I memorized a lot of Quran. Like I have one friend that memorized Baqarah. And when 9/11 happened, stop praying. I'm not with them. Another curveball that hits us. And now the Islamophobia machine is happening. And it's impacting our youth. I gave a couple years back, I was at a qiyam at a local masjid around here. And I was giving a talk to some of the middle school kids. During the discussion, we were talking about being bullied. And one of the kids, a couple of the kids I think, yeah, they said, oh, we get bullied all the time. I'm like, who bullies you? I was shocked at their response. Other Muslim kids bully us. I was shocked. About a few months before, fast forward another year and a half, a video went viral of a Syrian girl getting beat up in Pittsburgh in the girls' bathroom. So I decided, I have a middle school, I'm going to plug it. I have a middle school halaqah that I have here from every Friday from 6 to 7. So I decided to make my halaqah that day on bullying. So I did some research. In my research, there's multiple reasons why someone bullies. One of the reasons is because the kid is afraid about being bullied himself or herself. She will then bully someone else to be in with the in crowd. So Muslim kids, they could be the ones that are reciting Quran and like they come to the masjid with their dad. They themselves could be the ones bullying other Muslim kids in fear of being bullied themselves. So when they're bullying other kids, they'll be like, yo, I'm with you, John. I'm with you, Mike. Yeah, I don't know that guy. He's weird. And so they're in with the in crowd. This is what we call proactive bullying. Islamophobia, we tend to forget, but their ultimate goal, their number one goal is your kids. Now you see what happened with that terrorist in New Zealand, right? He's a terrorist, he's messed up. He's a victim of Islamophobia, that's totally right. But the Islamophobia machine is all about youth. It's all about making your kids uncomfortable and not identifying with Islam. To stay far away from it. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I gave khutbah maybe a year ago. I was at a community, I gave khutbah. I leave, an uncle comes, talks to me, and he tells me the following. My nephew, who's 24, he's an atheist. I love him. He sometimes fasts Ramadan. Here's the kicker. He sometimes prays Tarwih with me at the masjid. Doesn't believe in Allah. But he fasts and he comes to the masjid. He has a Muslim name. So I started to think, that's weird. And then I realized it's not that weird. I went to a university called DePaul. It's in Chicago. One of the most intellects on the Palestinian cause is Norman Finkelstein. So he was teaching when I was there. He would go into a classroom. You guys ready? He would say the following. Who here in my class doesn't believe in God? And about 6 kids raise their hand. We got 6 more kids in the class. And then you look at a lot of these podcasts, like Joe Rogan, all these type of podcasts, when they diss Islam, they're like, yeah, these Muslims believe Muhammad split the moon. They believe that he went up to the heavens in one night. And they're mocking it. But see, when they're mocking it, they seem very confident. And our youth are very insecure when it comes to faith. Because what we do, I'm not dissing it, but what we do is they memorize Quran, they recite, we feel awesome, they don't really understand what they're saying, and the curriculum of a lot of these schools are not really focusing on that. And so when they're challenged, memorizing a surah and reciting it to Norman Finkelstein is not going to do much. And so there's a lot of insecurity. So that day of talking to that uncle who talks about his atheist son, I started to think to myself, You know, I have a middle school program right now at this measure called ICOI in Irvine. I'm going to dedicate myself to talking to the youth, and they can have a Q&A, open Q&A. One of the things that I benefit from my son, when I talk to him, he tells me certain things. And I used to think to myself, I love the seerah. I love it. I love the seerah. And I used to think to myself, the age you teach the biography of the Prophet ﷺ should be around 6 to 7 years old. And then my son enters my life, and I realize it's like 3 years old. And I'll tell you why. One time I was having a conversation with my son, and he gave me the biography of Batman at 3. And I was shocked. I mean, he went into detail, telling me about Penguin, telling me about Joker, and telling me about Bane. I didn't even know about Bane until recently. So he's telling me all this, and I said, SubhanAllah, he's given me the mechanism of how to explain Islam to him through Batman. So when I tell him, when I explain to him, like he memorizes, I literally do a tafsir by using Batman. I'll tell him, Abu Lahab is Joker, Abu Jahl is the Penguin, and he's like, oh, yeah. And he's beginning to understand. I can see it in his eyes. I'm a product of America. My parents are immigrants. I'm a product of society. So I believe Allah blessed me in a way so I can talk to our youth. So that day I go to ICOI, I said, open Q&A to the youth. And they start drilling me with questions. One of the major questions, I would say 60% of it, had to do with the existence of God. These are middle school kids. So one of them was, it's very common, who created God? Very common. So I got this from Zach or Naya. So I said, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to answer your question with a question. Jack is a man. Jack is pregnant. He goes to the hospital and gives birth. So the person I'm asking the question to, did he give birth to a girl or a boy? Does it make sense? It can never happen. You can't understand that. I'm like, what you're asking is the same type of logic. I can't answer that. That can never happen. And my answer to you is we can never understand how the makeup of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. It's beyond our realm. So for us to think that question is not logical is the same thing of you asking me to answer that question is not logical. And I swear to you, all I saw was this. You could see it, that it was like a monkey went off their back. And that shocked me because you could tell they got that question 1,000 times and didn't know how to answer it. This is the problem that we're going through. We're not prepping our youth to understand these type of questions. And so as they get older and they're hit with this, they're like, I don't know. And they don't know what to do. And they will be challenged because you live in a society that it's on the rise. I was part of a community before. I've been part of some community, like 5 communities in the last 5 years. And one of the shuyukh in these communities quit. In his exit interview, he said, I'm a PhD in Islamic studies, and you have me teaching young people. I'm a PhD. You have me teaching young kids. So he quit. I'm in marketing, I'm in sales. All those big manufacturers, all they have is PhDs for marketing for your kids. I'll give you an example. Kellogg's, General Mills. If you go to the cereal aisle and you look at Toucan Sam, Max, and all these type of animations, look at their eyes. Their eyes are not up. They're not looking straight. They're looking down. Why are they looking down? They're making eye contact with your kids. One of the things that Americans hate the most, all of us, we don't like mice. I'm 6'4", 200 and change. If I see a mouse, I'm jumping on the chair. Straight up, I'm jumping. Didn't you find it interesting that everyone makes hijrah to Disneyland to see Mickey Mouse? They know how to market. I was once at a printing plant. They print a lot of graphics on packaging. And they were showing me, and they're giving me a tour, and there was all this type of paint on the ground. It was dirty. And then they took me to this private room. They put the code, and the vault opens. I saw a printer, and they imagine your printer at your house, multiplied by 1,000. Super clean. It was beautiful. I said, what do you print here? He's like, our printing actually prints for wine bottles and cigarettes. Next time you're at Walmart, look at all the aisles. What's the most beautiful aisle? In the sense of looking and branding, is the alcohol aisle. What's inside of it's poison, but what's outside of it is attracting. They're trying to allure you in. When it comes to shaitan, there's no budget. Nothing best to mislead you and your kids. And as Islamophobes know, it's all about your kids. We as a community, do we understand that concept? How many communities in Southern California has a youth director? I don't know one. How many of communities have a budget for the youth? We have, alhamdulillah, here we have a budget. A lot of communities don't. So don't be surprised in 10, 15 years when there's no kids coming to the masjid or no young people coming to the masjid. Whenever, this always happens. I'm going to leave right now. Someone's going to say something nice, like, Jazakallah khair for your khutbah. Listen, I tell you about my son. I tell you about my son. And then I start talking to him, and I know when I ask him, how old is your son? I know when he tells me he's 17, it's damage control. Your son's not going to look up to me. But wallahi, when he tells me my son's 6 or 7, I'm like, okay. I have a halakha, let him come. Because as they get older, they're not going to want to look up to someone like me or a youth activist in the community. And with the first part of the khutbah, أقول قول هذا استغفر الله لي لكم إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. There's certain things that we can do as a community. The first thing is very obvious. If you have anyone that's younger than you, you have a nephew, a son, tell them they're not alone. They are not alone. One of my favorite stories of someone that was of a middle school age in the Quran was Ibrahim alayhi salam. When he was a young man in Babylon, he was someone that challenged the community. One day they all left the community for their celebration. We know the story. He destroys all the idols with the exception of the big one. When they come back, they see all the idols destroyed, and they say something very profound in Surah Al-Anbiya. They say, قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا فَتَى يَذْكُرُهُمْ يُقَالُ لَهُ إِبْرَاهِيم. We heard a young man talking about them, and his name was Ibrahim. A couple things. He was a young man, as Allah illustrates in the Quran. Another thing is, they did not know who he was. We heard a young man. Meaning, if they knew who he was, it was Ibrahim alayhi salam. They didn't know who he was. Isn't it interesting? You have the Christians, the Jews, and us all claiming Ibrahim alayhi salam is ours. Half the world's population says he's ours. His own community couldn't pick him up in a lineup. They didn't know who he was. So any of the young people here that are coming to Jummah Khutbah on their own, that are praying even though their parents don't pray, you're not alone. Allah gave you an example of the Quran of an individual that was alone in his community. Sometimes we want to fit in. It's okay to be weird. It's okay to be, you know what, you're at the mall and you're like, I need to pray, and you're the only one praying. Don't worry about being weird in this life. Just worry about being popular in Jannah. That's the mentality that you need to focus on. Another thing is for us, really quick, is to always make dua for the people around us. If you see a youth that's dressed weird and he's being rude and you say salam and he doesn't respond, don't curse him. Make dua for him. So Webb, a lot of people know him, he's a famous scholar of America. He used to be selling like records, and he was a rap artist in the late 80s, early 90s. He accepted Islam. And when he went back to the flea market, his neighbor in the flea market said, you know what, I was praying for weeks upon months that Allah guide you to Islam. He didn't dress the part. He was acting a fool. He was a drug user. And you have a Muslim colleague saying, Allah guide this person. That's something that we can do quickly, and I'm going to end with this. We have a fundraising dinner tomorrow. I'll be honest with you. The first khutbah, I thought, I give the same khutbah. I'm like, we're going to sell out of the khutbah. We're going to sell out of the fundraising dinner. We're going to have tons of people buying tickets, right? I don't think we even sold 10. This is alarming because this is for your, like, this is our, the struggle is just not for me and Sheikh Jamil and Sheikh Obeid. These are your kids. These are your nieces and nephews. Our goal is to, with the funding, is to hire a youth director that will focus on your kids. We have a youth room. We want to attract our youth to come to the youth room. We want to have an air hockey machine. We want to have a foosball machine. We want to have where they can play games. We want these type of activities. My son, whenever I don't give khutbah, I ask him, where do you want to go for khutbah Jummah? He says, Baba, I want to go to the air hockey masjid. The air hockey masjid that he's referring to is in Chino Valley. They have a boys' room, they have an air hockey room. That's where he wants to go. He doesn't look at khutbah Jummah as horrible. We need something to attract our youth. In addition to that, we want to do monthly events with our youth. But it needs money. And I think, honestly, we have a community in Southern California that are trying to raise $60,000 in 45 days to enhance security. That's great. Should we focus on the security of our youth for their future? So when they have questions about atheism, about being picked on, they don't know how to go to you. They would probably know how to go to me or Sheikh Jamil. We can probably help them more. If we as a community collectively are not seeing the struggle, we're all going to fall. One thing that, now I'll end with this, because I want to respect the time. I took a class with Sheikh Walid Busuni, and he asked the question, what makes a successful father? And someone raises his hand. He says, that my kids go to Jannah. That will make them successful. And then Sheikh Walid Busuni says, that's totally incorrect. If that's the case, then Ibrahim alayhi salam's father would go to Jannah and he's going to Jahannam. And Nuh alayhi salam would be a horrible father then, because he said his son was a disbeliever. Your goal as a father is to give tools for your kids to be successful. Whether or not they want to take those tools, it's on them, not you. You need to, so as a community, are we giving our youth the tools to be successful? As the masjid of Corona, we're not. We can do a lot better. So tomorrow we have a fundraising dinner. We have a guest speaker, Abdurrahman Murphy. I lived in Chicago pretty much all my life. I moved out here in Southern California 4 years ago. And so Abdurrahman Murphy I know very well from the Chicagoland community. Now he's in Dallas. He deals with youth in a very national sense. So my spectrum is basically Southern California, Chicago. That's my point of view. His is all over the place. So he's going to talk about certain things. And again, we're selling tickets right by the food, so you can't miss us. The tickets are $20 just to buy the ticket to attend the fundraising dinner in the evening. And if you can't, just make a donation. Just make a donation. We're spoiled. The Southern California community, these youth, they have all these gadgets. It's not like we're competing with those gadgets. We just want certain things to just attract them to the masjid. So when it's time to like hang out, we're hanging out, and all of a sudden they say a foul language. We say, yeah, don't say that. You know, we explain to them why you shouldn't swear. And then when it's time to pray, everyone stop. We got to pray. And eventually these start to rub off on us, and then they begin to change their ways. And then Islam hits their heart, and then subhanAllah, what happens? They could be like Sheikh Jamil or Sheikh Obeid, leading us in Salah. But it does take your prayers, and it also takes what's in your pocket. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make you generous today and tomorrow, to accept your wealth. Oh Allah, make our best day the day that we meet you. Oh Allah, protect us from your punishment. Oh Allah, you're all forgiving, so please forgive us of our shortcomings. Oh Allah, make us better than what people perceive us to be. Oh Allah, ease the suffering all over the Muslim world. Oh Allah, please guide our youth and make them successful in this life and the hereafter. Oh Allah, make our youth the coolness in our eyes. Oh Allah, make us the coolness in our children's eyes. Oh Allah, protect our youth from Islamophobia. Oh Allah, put barakah in the donations we see to support our youth. Oh Allah, help us to be agents of change and implement this khutbah in our life. Oh Allah, help us live to Ramadan. Oh Allah, protect us from your punishment and make the best day the day that we meet you. Wa akhir da'ana walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wa qim as-salat.